Welcome to the SSAT Prometric Test Player tutorial. In this tutorial, you will learn about the Prometric interface for the SSAT. Know that at any time throughout testing, students should raise their hand if they need assistance from the proctor. Students will first start by reviewing that their name and test details are correct, and will click Confirm. Next, students will read and agree to the rules of testing. Before starting the actual test, students will have 15 minutes to go through a tutorial to help them understand the interface. In this video, we'll go over these same items. The first portion we'll go over is on the writing sample. After exiting the tutorial, students start the SSAT with the writing sample. Students left-click on the prompt they wish to answer, either A or B, and then they type their answer in the box below. Students can organize their thoughts with an erasable sheet and marker they are provided. An alert appears below the timer when 5 minutes remain. This will happen for every section of the test. When finished, click either Finish Section or the Next button. If time runs out in any section, a pop-up will appear. You will no longer be able to make any changes, and the test will automatically advance you to the next section. Now we'll go over the multiple choice sections. Here you can see the order and length of the multiple choice sections. Before beginning any section, students will see a preliminary instructional page for that section. Before beginning the multiple choice sections, however, a general pre-multiple choice section instruction page is included. Each individual multiple choice section also has its own set of section-specific instructions, as well as a sample problem and answer. The navigation and interface is the same for all multiple choice sections. The top left always shows what question you're on. In the left side navigation menu, you can see the current question has a pointed shape. We also know the question hasn't been answered because it's light green. The time remaining for the current section shows at the top middle. The help icon lets you return to the full tutorial from the start of the test. You can check it out at any time, but know that once you start a section, your timer will not stop, even if you're reviewing the tutorial again. Here is what a regular multiple choice question looks like. The question is at the top, and the answer choices appear underneath it. Left-click on an answer to select it. It will become highlighted. To deselect an answer, left-click on it again. You can also see on the left side navigation menu that answered questions turn dark gray, as shown by the arrow, while unanswered questions remain light green. Here we can see from the left side navigation menu that all questions have been answered. It's important to remember that you receive 1 point for each correct answer, nothing for an omission, and lose 1/4 of a point for an incorrect answer. So you shouldn't feel obligated to answer every question. It may be best to leave questions unanswered if you can't eliminate at least 2 of the answer choices in order to make an educated guess. You can also right-click on any answer choice to cross it off. This doesn't impact the answer choice or select an answer, but it lets you visually know you have eliminated an answer choice. Here we see a student crossed off choices B and D and selected A as the correct answer. You can right-click on a crossed off answer so it is no longer crossed off. If you wish to remind yourself to come back to a question, whether you've answered it or not, you can click the flag button at the bottom right. A white flag will appear as a visual reminder if you flagged the question. Then you can continue on with the test and return if you have time in that section. If scrolling on a page is required, a green pop-up box and a scroll bar will appear. Once you are done with a question, whether you have answered it, flagged it, or left it blank, click Next to continue to the next question. You can also click back to return to the previous question. Let's look more at the left side navigation menu. At any time, you can move or jump to any question in a section or review flagged questions just by left-clicking the question number. Some sections have more questions than fit, so the left side navigation menu has a down arrow to show the remaining questions. Similarly, an up arrow will appear at the top of the navigation menu if necessary. Let's review your 2 options for navigating in a section again. These are important to remember. You can use the next and back buttons to move one question at a time, or the navigation menu on the left to jump to any question in the current section. Once you are done with a section, you can click the Finish Section button at the top right. If you have flagged any questions and still have time, consider reviewing those with your remaining time before finishing the section. Clicking the next button on the last question in a section will also allow you to finish the section. A confirmation pop-up will ask you to confirm if you are done. If you have unanswered questions, the pop-up will remind you of this. But remember that incorrect answers are penalized, so do not feel you must answer every question. Now let's review section-specific details. The reading section is unique as it will have a split screen because it includes a passage that must be read to answer the questions. Passages in the reading section will appear in a PDF viewer. By default, the PDF viewer will be pinned to the left side of the test player. It can be unpinned by clicking the push pin icon in the upper right corner of the PDF viewer. When the PDF viewer is unpinned, it can be moved with your mouse to a position of your preference. The PDF viewer includes the ability to zoom with the drop-down or the plus and minus buttons, and students can use the hand icon to move the passage within the viewer when it is zoomed in. During the verbal section, you will see that it is comprised of two parts. The first 30 questions are synonyms. The second 30 questions are analogies. Each of these parts starts with an informational page. Be sure to answer all synonyms and analogies, 60 questions total, before clicking Finish Section. We'll now discuss taking breaks. During the SSAT, there are 2 scheduled breaks. During this time, you can leave your computer, use the restroom, or have a snack you brought with you in the waiting area. It's important to remember that once the break timing is over, the next section will automatically start. So be sure to come back to your computer before the break ends. Also, allow a minute or so for a quick security check before returning to the testing room. When you arrive back, click Resume Test. Although there are 2 scheduled breaks, unscheduled breaks can be taken at any time. During an unscheduled break, the test will not be paused, and the section timer will continue running while you are away. Thus, it's best to use or wait for a scheduled break if possible. Finally, let's go over finishing the test. Once a candidate has finished the last section, the final screen is the Finish Test screen. When the candidate clicks the Finish Test button, an alert appears confirming their decision to submit the test. After submission, a results screen appears confirming that the test is complete and providing instructions for exiting the test player. You are then free to leave the testing room. For any other questions or assistance, please contact EMA support.